Okay, so I'm back to making videos. Um, so the first order of business being wanted to address was so obviously like uh, so obviously like I mentioned like Pol Pot and I mean the extreme nature of the society demands extreme action. You know, like with everything happening simultaneously at once. Um, I mean, I said it once and I say it again, right? Like, if it came down to the goy slop, or like, like like these things, that these things are the difference between one life and another, I wouldn't know, right? Because I've commodified each of these actions. It costs to walk properly, it costs to talk properly. And whether it's because of one whole entire situation that you don't know about, or you do know about, it's not in my power to say that, because I'm not really sure, right? I'm not really sure. I wouldn't have the answers. Obviously, like, like making these videos, potentially trying to survive out here, um, because I knew that after like 2018 or after 2012, all of these conflicts were far from over, and somebody would be left to pick up after the cause, right? Like, I mean, again, like I said, like these people who got lost, Dean Witcher or Walter Stadnick, I never intended that things end up the way they did. I sincerely, like I acknowledge that it's not right what's happened, and my parents, like, I thought about it in the morning. Like Jennifer Pan, like she could have asked for help too, right? Like, it's not like I just say that my parents like did everything wrong, and it is Father's Day when I'm making this video, so like I acknowledge that. And like I already said, like I wouldn't know what you can or can't say at this point, other than the fact that the moment you speak like a lick of English, you're already like in the wrong. There's no other explanation I have on that, right? And my desperation to alter history and to travel in time is like, it's a desperation, right? Like, I'd pay any amount of money, I'd sacrifice any amount of people to get to that level, right? I would, right? And people don't take me seriously because of my voice, and because I have a little like, because they don't think I'm sincere, because I don't really act on impulses, and I don't really, like, I say something and I don't do it. And yeah, there isn't really a lot of consistency, and that's why obviously I'm disrespected out there. I say one thing, and then I do the next, and then I do the third after the fifth, and then we're at the eighth, right? So that's not, obviously it's not appropriate, it's obviously not correct. I don't want people to view me a certain way like that, but like that's just what it turned out to be. And it even will save your butt from unnecessary criticism and problems and all these things. I make sure that I don't have to deal with that. And for me, like like some of these problems could have started because of like a Beyblade or like a basketball match. These things actually happen, like I know about these things, right? And whether a sincere conflict occurs and the person actually wants to engage, because now it costs for me to walk out here, it costs for me to do these things, and I wouldn't step into a movie theater, right? I wouldn't consume the goy slop that they produce, because that means you're encouraging, right? Money is used as a means of encouragement, and means of encouragement, and as a means of uh you know like, you can encourage people to do things using money. You could encourage people um to do things with money. You could encourage people to do things for you with money. The money is a motivator, right? Money motivates people, and like these videos are probably too late. It's too late in 2026. Drug overdoses and blaming a certain group of people for all the issues in your life and in society. And I get that. These old white people that did this, I had no part in it, right? But it's too late. It's too late when uh the world's ending, and like the random attackers, the repeat violent offenders per se, they're already going to act out on what they did because nobody intervened at a time when doing something would have actually changed the end result. And so now all you have is me in these videos, right? I don't know who's gonna watch them. I don't know how. I don't know who's gonna, um, I don't know who's gonna watch the videos. I don't know, I hope it's the right people. I hope my apology is as sincere as it can be. Because again, my dad going to work and then driving home and then, getting in his car to go to some forest. Like, I get it. Everyone can laugh. Like 15, 20 years ago, you can laugh. It's like, oh yeah, this guy's stuck in the matrix, and he just did what the system told him to, and he just did what he was asked, and all that. And I get that. Like, those are valid criticisms. And I'm not here to just punish my dad and punish myself. But I do, because, there were serious things happening, those 15, 20, 30 years ago. And when you look at me and you ask, like, oh, why does this guy have no friends? And, I'm not here to, again, I don't encourage any of, the things the TV shows portray, because it's not real life. And real life is just unpredictable, right? Like, the real life doesn't really function like the TV shows. Real life doesn't really function like the TV shows. So, the TV shows can show you one thing, and the reality might be an entirely other. And obviously, you can use the common, oh yeah, mental health, and humans weren't built to live in the industrial world and whatever. Obviously it has merit, but even 988, I've called this helpline like a multitude of times, and I don't say that it's a bad helpline. The workers there, I'm sure they're doing their best. I'm sure they're trying, but we obviously know that unfortunately, unfortunately, they are who they are, right? Unfortunately, they are who they are. And there's just way too much of a limit of the help you can get. You can talk on the phone for half an hour and you can vent out your problems, but that's just about it. Obviously, if you had a harm plan, then they'll call the police on you. So obviously they'll call the police on you, but then it's you can already do that yourself. You don't need some helpline or some mental health support to tell you those things. So the question is what's the use of any helpline, right? Unless you want to go to a counselor or the others, right? The psychiatrist who only prescribes pills. You have to seriously look into the situation. And the thing is I'm trying to control the situation, right? I'm trying to control my life. I'm trying to control the situation. Zero bias at all, right? I'm trying my best to I look at the ground, right? Because you look at someone, they're telling me oh, you did something, and then that's it, you're getting arrested, right? So the person has a seizure, and there's a conflict, and everyone's fighting, and all this. I don't do that, right? I'm saving my health from that. And by the way, again, most of these people are just too stupid to be helped, and I mean that sincerely in the nicest way possible, that you can't help these people. They're paralyzed. They're it's like a Venus flytrap. They fly directly in the trap. Like my dad, he didn't have the intelligence to look at what was happening and be oh yeah, that's Goyslop. And look, I'm not here to alter every past, every destiny, every fate, and I don't even know if I am. The most that I could do from the position I'm at would be to post these videos, right? Other than that, I could manifest the past. I can be oh yeah, I would have stepped in when Cody Boghoff or whatever his name was doing what he was doing, or I would have never stepped into any movie theater, watched any movie, because it's all Goyslop. I wouldn't have communicated with anyone because I knew. And in 2016, I even knew there was something off about the fact that nobody was really talking. But then I realized, I read the news and I read how these things occur. And it's all controversial. It's a controversy. Just step outside of your house now. You don't even know, the person's going to start judging you, and you breathe air the wrong way, and then suddenly the police are at your door, and you don't even know why, right? You don't even know who these people are. You don't even know what's happening. And, I heard sirens like about every hour, like in the last month, sirens going off every hour. So be it, right? Your lifestyle is so difficult to maintain and so controversial, and every little thing is a debate. You see like this curvature in the road, right? You can argue it's all perfect, and we're gonna fight over that, and we're gonna redraw it, we're gonna redesign it 100 times and 1,000 times until it looks perfect, like there's like a fucking laser used to build it. And that's what it's gonna come to, Unfortunately, right? These videos are unfortunate. They're not coming from a pleasant place, right? If I intentionally wanted to relate to another person, by producing, if I want to intentionally relate to another person by producing, goy slop, and just following the trend and following the herd, that's what I would do. But that's not what I'm doing, right? I'm making these videos on my own behalf, using my own conscience and being authentic and truthful, right? I've been truthful this whole time, and it's hard to do this humanly, right? It's not really humanly possible anymore, without getting judged, and everybody shit hits the fan, and everybody's losing it, and they're starting a conflict, and you breathe the wrong way and whatever, and then everything just falls apart, right? So these videos are just an honest approach to an honest problem, right? Like the thing is, like I didn't understand these issues. Findlay Creek, there was like 15 people living in one house and all that, and I didn't really get it, but now I get it, right? And it's this thing where there's like a no disrespect culture, but then at this point, like, okay, there's a humanitarian crisis in Canada, right? No one's gonna admit it. Nobody's gonna fucking actually, like, open their mind to the possibility, to admit that they're wrong, to admit that that they're in a state of desperation, that they're in a state of desperation. They're in a state of like they're in a poor state of their life, right? They're in a poor state, right? Like, right, they're feeding you goy slop. Your life is in a poor state where you can't afford basic things, and maybe it's like an ego thing, right? Like your ego is thwarted, and you feel worse about yourself. You can't admit defeat. You can't admit failure. You can't admit that you're wrong. You don't want to look bad. You don't want to like be judged, because all these things are real, right? Like all these things are very real, right? They're not. One second. All these things are real, right? All these things are pretty real, and I mean, it's come to the point where you'd record your life 24/7 just to make sure that nobody said, he said, she said, this person lied. And like at the beginning of the video, right? I already admitted that I lied to people. I lie about my age. I lie about the things I do. I lie about my identity. Like, I lied. And honestly, because I don't know what it is, right? Because we can go with the exact facts that, are specific, like laser cut thin specific, like, very, very, very thorough, right? To the point that you would figure out, what am I doing right here, right now, today, talking into this phone? And the only compartment missing is, you're too late, right? You're too late because, everything already happened, like the homeless needed the housing yesterday. The people needed feeding yesterday, right? And, different means of obtaining energy. Because we already know that at this point, we already know that, unfortunately, like, with the way that things are, right, resource management's a real thing. We're going to need to really, wisen up about how we use resource, right? Like, I've been vegetarian, right? I'm not too worried about myself being vegetarian, and that's a good step on my end, and that's something I respect myself for. But I would have done it sooner, like had I known that these people would die, and there's a whole business on organs, and a whole business on organs. And that's why I remain vegetarian. I'm a vegetarian, I remain vegetarian, and that's me. That's my personal preference, right? There's gonna be someone who's gonna find that out, and they're gonna want to fight me. They're gonna, because that's how people are. Like, it's so terrible, because it's like ingrained into our nature, human nature, that we'll just fight, or we'll annoy other people just to get a reaction out of them, just to get a reaction, just to see them afraid, just to see them lose their cool, just to see them, squeal. And then they get picked apart, right? And literally, the guy said it. He said it with extreme, like, accuracy. He's like, talking damages the Canadian order. He couldn't have been more right. He couldn't have been more right. Somehow that statement, holds just so true. That if everything occurred the way it was supposed to, you wouldn't be talking at all, I think. And these movies, these TV shows, and like, I'm sure the people there, like, they're trying, right? And I'm trying. I obviously got lost somewhere along the way. Otherwise, these videos wouldn't be happening. Otherwise, I would have made the videos earlier. I would have told the people earlier. I would have preached, and I would have stepped in back when it would have actually changed something, right? Back when stepping in would have actually, because look, like, people won't even agree on land use and all these things. They won't agree upon it. They won't even agree upon it. So it's a problematic world, right? We can't even agree that 1 + 1 is 2 at this point. We don't know if it's 1.11000, or we don't even know 1 + 1 is equal to 2.00001. Like, we don't know. Like, at this point, you're dealing with these metrics and you're dealing with these people, and a lot of people, like, they don't even want to hear it. They already assume you're a certain race, you're a certain creed, and that's it. I feel awful. I feel awful making these videos in this year, in this time period. Nobody would take me seriously, right? Like, because I didn't notice it. I didn't notice the whole meat eating thing and all this, the business of meat and geopolitical crises that would, evolve into what they are. And my dad forbade me from watching TV to see this. Other than the Goy Slop, which shows you just random, inexplicable violence. Again, I'm not the one here preaching like Gandhi, right? Everybody knows that Gandhi's preaching is long past due, right? Gandhi's preaching is something of the past. Granted, maybe some people see me as a coward, right? That, he doesn't go to the movies, he doesn't engage with the Goy Slop, he doesn't engage with other people, he doesn't confront, violence against people, and he doesn't, step in, he doesn't, okay, I would have stepped in on what? On what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just what would be the... Like, obviously, it's too late once you see these videos. It's way too late for me to step into this one conflict and fix it. Granted, I would say that because it's almost like human beings aren't from planet Earth, every interaction with a human being could be questioned because it's barely real. It's barely real. This Earth is barely real, right? And all the religions say it's like a dunya, a matrix. But it doesn't change the fact that, eating meat is terrible, right? I'm about to go 1 month no meat after my mom bring me some meat. I am understimulated, right? I'm an understimulated person, right? I can acknowledge that. Like, I can acknowledge that, right? And again, like, I feel terrible, right? Like, these things are things you should know in advance. These videos are absolute wisdom. They're wisdom that could, be the difference, and that can help people, that could prevent, you from looking stupid, like, that's why they're here, right? So that you don't look stupid like I do. You don't come off as a goy, right? Nobody wants to come off as a goy, at least. Like, the thing is, like, I don't judge people at all. Like, I literally don't. If you watch these videos, you know that I never judge a book by its cover. But the description of a goy, right? That's a description, right? I never even... You could subjectively take that statement as you will. You could take these videos in any way that you want, right? As long as you're not hurting me, you could take these videos in any way that you want. But I'm not a goy, Like, I refuse to allow myself to be seen as, cattle or a slave to some Zionist Zog. And if they're going to pass their responsibility onto me, right? And I'm going to pass all this human responsibility onto someone else, so be it, like, with your cancers, AIDS, and, incurable diseases that come from the left wing or come from, like, nowhere, so be it, right? Hold on. The path goes in different directions, just like in real life. I'm going to go here. So like I said, like, I'm not going to be a goy anymore, right? I'm not going to sit there and watch, my country fall apart and not say anything about it, not do anything about it. These videos are, like, many years late. because it's not worth it. Like, I get it. People, like, they're raising their children. They want them to see a normal world, and to some extent, everybody can agree that trying to act normal and try to hold the torch for the next generation. Like, that's okay. I get that, but at the expense of who? The indigenous people. So I get it. Like, I'm not here to say that these people can do whatever they come here, do whatever they want, because they already do that, right? You don't need me to tell you that, right? People already come here and do whatever they want, because Canada is like a borderless country. Like, we barely have a border, right? Here, I'm gonna walk up over here. There's a no trespassing sign. There's already no border, right? 1 second. Walk over here then.